Buddy, and thank you for attending the class. I hope that you had a very good weekend. Yesterday the weather was very good in Dublin and it was really nice, so the start of the spring and maybe the summer is close. So welcome. Maybe today is your first day, so thank you for connecting, and I hope you will enjoy the class. And probably, I'm sure we have lots of people attending for the 5th week or the 6th week. So the idea is to have the free class in the morning, especially with the restrictions with the pandemic. It's difficult because lots of people are working from home, lost their jobs, a lot of changes. So it's a good opportunity to give free classes, and for me it's a good opportunity to try to return to work, because in May it was necessary to stop, and hopefully this is a good avenue and a good way to return to work and for the future. So that's my plan and that's my idea. I hope the class will benefit you. I hope you can understand me. We have people with lots of different abilities and different levels of English, so it's very important that I keep in mind people with different levels and different abilities, and people have different mother tongues, different first languages. People speak Spanish, Italian, Thai, Vietnamese, so there's lots of different people, Polish, Portuguese. So that's a difficult job for me, but I try to keep this in mind. I hope we have no problem with the connection. I hope the Wi-Fi and the computer and the technology is okay, and it's fantastic technology and opportunities to teach online, so it's a very good platform and fantastic ability. So the idea today is maybe introduction. So we will do an introduction for grammar. After the introduction we will look at the phrasal verbs and the idioms, and we will continue little by little. I hope there's no disruption here. We have the dog and we have 6 people at home, so hopefully there's no big distraction or disruption, but it's possible. But we continue, no problem. I'm sure for you it's similar. Working from home, we have the same situation. Okay, so on the right you can see the plan for today. First, normally we have an introduction document, but today it's very short and we will look at this very briefly. After the introduction document we continue with this agenda, and also on the left you can see the social media. So Instagram, I am using Instagram a lot in the last few weeks, and we have now 400 followers, which is really good. And there are pictures from Dublin every morning and some quotations in relation to English and some clips from the classes. So that's on Instagram, @miglioreinglés. You are welcome to join. Twitter has the same content more or less as the Facebook page, and the YouTube channel also has the same content as the free classes. After the free class I upload the class to YouTube every day. At the moment I'm using Zoom, so I'm using Zoom and Facebook Live, so I cannot see your comments now on Facebook. But if you want to participate in the class, if you want to ask a question during the class, you can connect with Zoom, and the meeting ID is here and the passcode, so you are welcome to connect on Zoom, and if you want to ask a question or to participate. Okay, so I will share the screen and we will continue with the class. So first I want to show you the phrasal verbs. Okay, well, this document you can see here is the most important document in my opinion. This is the introduction, and every time I meet a new student, every time I start with a new student, this document is the most important. Okay, because it's the foundation of English. It's all the important concepts, all the important topics in one document. And for me there are 3 very important sections. The first section is use of English, and for me this is probably the most important section when you learn English. The second area are different tenses, so the time, do you speak in the present, the future, or the simple? The idea and the concepts of the terms for the tenses in English is very important for the introduction. And finally we have a third area in yellow, grammar topics as well. So basically I have explained this document many times in the last 2 months, and you can see in all my previous videos the explanation. Okay, so there are very important terms in grammar, for example a noun, an article, countable, uncountable, adjective, comparative, superlative, adverb, modal verb, prepositions, possessives, determiners, demonstratives. So you need to be very clear and very familiar with the terms. Okay, normally I explain in detail, but today I will just show you the words, and it's your responsibility, it's your job to be very familiar with the terms, because during the class I mention the specific technical words frequently, and it's a big part of the class. Okay, the same with the tenses. So there are some technical terms with the tenses. You can see here we have the simple, we have the perfect, and the continuous. They're the most typical: the present simple, past simple, future simple, present continuous, past continuous, future continuous, present perfect, past perfect, future perfect. So you need to be very sure and very familiar with the significance and the concept and the idea of the different tenses. Okay, but today we're going to focus specifically on the use of English. So in the use of English we have 4 different topics, in my opinion. So we have different English around the world. We have lots of different accents. Okay, so if you are in Ireland, you have different accents. If you are in England, we have lots of different accents in Ireland, in England, Australia, New Zealand, United States, Canada. So this is an extremely difficult job for you to try to understand people and to know the different accents and the velocity. So that's a big part. And for me, from my accent, it's possible in Dublin, in Ireland, we have strong phonetics in relation to U. So maybe Dublin, butter, bus, but phonetically it should be Dublin, butter, bus. And also the TH is possibly very strong in Ireland and in Dublin. For example, phonetically it should be this, that, these, those, Thursday, but sometimes for me it's like a D: this, that, these, those, Thursday. So you need to be a little bit careful with my pronunciation in relation to the TH. Also the OU is possibly very strong: house, mouse, and sometimes it's quite a little different, my pronunciation of the O. But the biggest areas are the phrasal verbs and the idioms. So the concept of a phrasal verb is the verb plus a preposition. Remember, prepositions: in, on, at, under, over, across. We have a lot of prepositions, and when you combine the preposition with the verb, you have a literal significance, a literal meaning, but also frequently you have a completely different second significance, and this is a phrasal verb. And they're very particular to English, they're very unique to English, and we use them all the time in conversation, with family, with friends, but also in serious and formal situations. They are a massive part of English, and we have thousands of phrasal verbs, and for me this is maybe the most beneficial area for you to focus on. Okay, because the rest of English more or less is understandable and it's possible to learn, but phrasal verbs are very particular and a little bit different, but they're so frequent. Okay, similarly with idioms, we use idioms and expressions all the time with conversation, with family, with friends, with all the time. So idioms are expressions. In Espanol, frases hechas. So I think every language has expressions, and a lot of idioms and expressions are international and they're translated into every language. And one example is a taste of your own medicine, and I think in other languages you have the same translation: a taste of your own medicine. So if you act very bad, if you have bad behavior to somebody else, and then you receive that bad behavior, that's a taste of your own medicine. So it's a famous expression, and that's just one example of idioms. Conversation and pronunciation, of course, is a big part of English. So when you are learning, when you are practicing your English, it's necessary for you to find somebody to practice conversation, and hopefully they can help you and correct you and to practice conversation is a big part. Speaking is a different ability from listening, reading, writing and speaking. So there's lots of different areas in English, and speaking is very important, and hopefully somebody can correct you and help you. Also for pronunciation, so English is not exactly phonetic all the time. There are some irregular pronunciation phonetics in English, and during the class I try to help and try to identify the different and important pronunciation issues. Okay, good. So that's just the area today. We will focus specifically on phrasal verbs and idioms in today's class, but also of course we will keep in mind the different tenses and also the other grammar topics: noun, adjective, adverb, modal verb, preposition, past perfect, present perfect. We will always maintain this when we are teaching, and during the class it's very important that you are familiar with all the terms. Okay, so this document is very, very important, and every day in the class, in the video, in the comment section, I put the document in the comment section after the class and you can see. Okay, also today at 4 o'clock we have a specific grammar webinar today at 4 o'clock, and this week is the 4th week of the webinar and you are welcome to join. We will focus specifically on a grammar explanation and also some exercises in relation to one grammar topic every week. It's very good, and the focus is obviously grammar, but it's a good opportunity also to learn vocabulary, to learn expressions, and probably for discussion and conversation as well. So it's every Monday 4 p.m. on Zoom. If you want the link for Zoom, you can contact me and I'll give you the link for Zoom at 4 o'clock. It's approximately 1 hour and there's a small price, a small fee of €2.90, so very, very cheap and very good value. And again, if you want the link for the meeting and the code, just contact me and I can give you the details. Okay, so that's today at 4 o'clock, and every day we have specific webinars. So Tuesday is for sport, Wednesday is for the IELTS exam, Thursday is the advanced certificate, Friday webinar is the business English, and Saturday webinar is the first certificate B2. Okay, so I have two ideas. My first idea is the phrasal verbs. Okay, the second idea is an article. So here it's an article from the weekend, and the topic is in relation to Barcelona and dancing. Okay, so here's the story. It's from Reuters, and I never know the pronunciation, but the story is a party and dancing in Barcelona with the social distancing, with the regulation. So it's a very good article in relation to vocabulary. So this is one idea, and the second idea is to continue with phrasal verbs and idioms. So maybe I will begin with the article because it's probably a little more interesting and it covers every topic. So the technique and the method is I read first for pronunciation, and after the reading I return to the vocabulary and the grammar and explain the important parts. Okay, so first, the ravers feel the music at socially distant silent disco in Barcelona. Okay, and here's the picture of the people having a good time, enjoying the music, enjoying the party, and the sun is shining. So obviously it's beautiful weather in Barcelona and it's a nice picture, people having a good time. Okay, so the first two paragraphs: Barcelona ravers have found a way to get round COVID-19 curbs on clubs by holding outdoor silent discos in some of the city's best known locations. Okay, on Sunday people welcomed the first day of spring by putting on their headphones and busting some moves at Marbella Beach along Barcelona's famous seafront, all while respecting social distancing regulations. Okay, and I'll read the next two as well. I'll maybe make the text a little bit bigger so everybody can see. I'm just going to make this smaller and make the text a little bit bigger so everybody can see. Okay, so we continue. and I think it's here. It's been incredible, really cool. I didn't expect there would be so many people, said therapist Andres Mayado, 41. At first, it seems a bit odd dancing in the middle of Barcelona and people were stopping to look. But it's beautiful. It's a great thing to do on a Sunday morning. Come here and connect a bit to the music, he said. Okay, and finally, what started off as a fun meetup between friends has grown into a regular Sunday morning event. The Tribu Silent Disco one took place at the famous magic fountain in the neighborhood of Montjuic. Okay, so I don't know if my pronunciation is correct, but the first title and the first headline, a raver is a person. Okay, so first I'm going to explain the vocabulary a raver. The verb is to rave, and it is flexible, it is important. So the verb is to rave, and it's the type of music, it's the type of party with electronic music, dance music, and to rave is to party, to have a great time, and it's really strong dancing. And then a raver is a person who goes to the disco, but it's more metaphorical, because in English we can say I am raving about the chocolate, I am raving about the restaurant, and that means you're telling everybody. Okay, so this is very typical. I am raving about that cafe. And basically the significance is you are very, very enthusiastic. You love that cafe. You're telling all your friends it's the best cafe in Dublin. It has the best chocolate. You are raving. You are raving about that cafe. So you're very motivated. You're talking to everybody. That's very typical in conversation. You are raving about the new movie. You're raving about the new series on Netflix. A little informal, but extremely common in conversation. To be raving about something is to be really excited. Okay, so probably that's the best synonym. Really excited about something. And it is very, very common. I think you can say I am raving mad. Okay, he is raving mad, and the significance is totally mad. So this is possible also in conversation. If you are raving mad, you are totally mad. Okay, it is also possible I am raging mad, and that means very, very angry, because rage is rabia. Okay, in Espanol, rage is the noun, and I think there's a famous band, Rage Against the Machine. But if you're raving mad, it means totally or completely mad. But it is typical raving about somebody or raving about something. But here it's literal. It's the people in the plural who attend the disco. Okay, feel the music. At is preposition for location. So I meet you at the cafe. You meet your friend at the cinema. Specific location we say at, but also for time we say at 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, because it's the same concept. It's a specific location in time. At 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, at the cafe. Okay. Here we have the adjective, socially distant, silent. So there's 3 adjectives, but the disco is the noun. Okay. So normally we need an article, but in this case it's not necessary. But basically socially distant, silent are 3 adjectives in this case, and the disco is the noun or substantivo, and the preposition for the city is in Barcelona, in Dublin, in Rio de Janeiro, in Vietnam. So for a city and for a country we say in. So that's just a little detail, but very important. Okay, so the first paragraph, Barcelona ravers, this is the subject of the sentence, and the verb of the sentence is to find. Okay, so normally the structure is subject, verb, and object. So in this case the subject are the ravers, the verb is to find. Okay, the infinitive is to find, but the past is irregular, found. Okay, so find is the verb, found is the past, irregular, because we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past, and this is very important. So you remember in school you learned the 3 columns: find, found, found. So the second column is the past simple, first column is the infinitive, and the third column is the participle. Okay, so to find, found, and found is the participle, and the participle is used in the perfect. Okay, so this third column is used in the construction of the perfect. And remember, the perfect, we have the present perfect and the past perfect. So the present perfect is the period in time that's finished, it's completed, but the consequences are definitely relevant to now. Okay, so I have had my breakfast, I have eaten my breakfast is the present perfect, it's finished, but it's related to now because at the moment I am not hungry. And here it is the present perfect because the find happened in the past, but it's still relevant because they continue to do the activity. Okay, and a way is like una manera in Espanol, you find a way or a method, and the expression here is to get round. Okay, so this is difficult. This is a phrasal verb. Okay, to get round is flexible, and we have 2 or 3 different contexts. The first context is mobility and transport. So if you live in the city, the question is, how do you get around the city? How do you travel around? So the first significance is to travel around. So I get around, 2 possibilities: get around or get round, no problem. I get round the city by bicycle, I get round the city by car, I get round the city by metro, or I get round the city on foot. Okay, so normally we say by metro, by bike, by car, by bus, but there's one exception, and this is classic, and it's necessary to say on foot. Okay, so that's irregular, but it's very, very important. So you get round by bus, you get round on foot, and you can say get round or around, and the significance is to travel around. Okay, to travel around. Very, very common, very important. And the second context, so the first context is travel in the city. The second context is for regulations and for laws and restrictions. So if you have a law and a rule and you want to break, that's the typical vocabulary, we can say break or bend. Okay, so in relation to a rule, we say to break a rule or to bend a rule. Okay, so the verb to break is very clear. I think the majority of people understand break, and that means romper in Espanol, to break. Okay, so to break a rule is bad, but there's an expression to bend a rule, and to bend is like curvar in Espanol. So bend is this action, but break is completely destroy. But if you bend a rule, it's more flexible. Okay, but in this context, we say to get round a rule. So it's very, very similar. If you have the rule and it's restricting you, you need to get around the regulation. So you need to find another way, another method to do what you want to do. And that's a perfect example in this case, because the restrictions prohibit, or ban the parties, but the people want to find another way to party, so they need to get around the regulations. So this is the significance of phrasal verbs, and the prepositions are usually associated with movement. Okay, the next vocabulary is advanced. So they want to find a way, or they have found, because it started in the past and it continues, a way to get around the COVID-19 curb. So this is advanced and maybe confusing. So a curb is like a restriction. Okay, so a curb is a restriction, and I think it's related to the road. So you know the road, and then we have the path, the side, and the path in the UK more typically, I think. And here we have a curb. Okay, and also there's another expression, a curb. So I think the second one is more typical in the United States, but the first one's more typical in the UK, and I think they have exactly the same significance, but it's part of the road. So when the road meets the path, so the path is a little higher than the road, so this part here is the curb because it stops the road. That's the significance, okay? So the curb stops the road, so it's flexible in English, the verb to curb. If I want to curb my habit of eating chocolate, if I want to curb my eating a lot of sugar, it's like to stop or to reduce. Okay, so it's very advanced, very fluent, very, very common. To curb is like to stop or to restrict. Okay, but really typical in conversation and really common. And here it's the noun in the plural, so it's like restrictions. So they try to find or get around the restrictions or the curbs. And then this is the preposition, because you have a restriction on me, a restriction on you, a restriction on him. On is usually for surface, okay? The road, it's a surface on the road. The table, a surface on the table. The wall, surface on the wall. So for curb or restriction, you have a restriction or a curb on the person, okay? Because it's, I suppose, affecting that person a lot. Here is the preposition by, because this is the reason, or this is how they do it. But the verb here is very important, to hold, okay? And in this context, it's connected with the disco. So they're holding. Outdoor is adjective, silent is adjective, and the disco is the noun. So they are holding the disco. So this is a little difficult, but it's very, very fluent, because the verb is to hold. And to hold is very typical for the bottle. I am holding the bottle. So hold is very general, very important. Hand, typical for the people, you hold the hand. Okay, but there's a second significance for hold, and it's typical in the context of a meeting, a party, an event. So you can hold a meeting, you can hold a party, you can hold an event, and the significance is to organize or to manage. Okay, so to hold a meeting, to hold a party, to hold an event, and the significance is to organize or to manage, okay, or to be responsible. There's another verb that's very, very typical as well, to host, and it's very similar, but hold has the significance to manage, and host is more entertain. So you can host them, but it's the same significance. On Zoom, you can host the meeting, so you are welcoming the people, because a host is like hace falta in Espanol. In the aeroplane, you have the air hostess or the air host. In the concert, you have the host, who maybe shows you to the chair. Or in the party, you have the host, who is the person organizing the party. So it's very, very good vocabulary. And here they're holding a disco, so they're organizing, they're responsible for, they're managing a disco in some of the cities best known. So they're two words, but this is the hyphen. And when you have the hyphen, it's possible to combine two words to make one word. So best known are two words, but you can combine the two with the hyphen and it becomes one word. Best known is an adjective. Location is the noun, okay, and it's plural. So very interesting. One paragraph, and we have a lot of detail, a lot of very important grammar points. So only 3 sentences, but very, very important, okay. And the next paragraph, we can see the preposition on. So typical for the day, we use on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday. So typically for the day, we say on, but for the month, January, February, March, we say in. Okay, in January, in February, in March, but on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. For the year, we say in 2020, in 2021, in 1920. So this is very important. And I'm just going to write here just so you remember. So on is for the day, okay, in is for the month, and in is for the year, okay. So very important for the preposition. And also they're the 3 very, very common prepositions. And here we have the day, so it's typical on. Maybe for the morning, for example, we say in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening, okay. And oh, sorry, my typing is not so good. So typically for the morning, we say I meet you in the morning, I meet you in the evening, or I meet you in the afternoon, okay. So in for that context. and they're the most common, I think. Okay, people, so this is the subject of the sentence. Remember the structure, you need the subject, the verb, and the object. This is the typical structure of the sentence. So the subject here is people, but remember the difference between person and people. So you have one person and two people, okay? One person or three people. So this is classic and this is important. So singular, it's one person, and plural is two people. Because in Espanol, it's un persona y dos personas, okay? But it is possible in English, three persons. Yes, it's possible, but only in a legal situation or a very, very formal situation. It's possible two persons, three persons. It's possible, but it's necessary a formal situation or a legal situation. But the majority of the time, the most typical is people, plural. So one person and two people. Very, very important. The verb is to welcome. Okay, so I welcome you, you welcome your friend, and the present simple is welcome, but to create the past, we normally add ed. So this is the regular rule in the past. To create the past, you normally add ed. So welcome is the present, welcomed is the past. But of course, we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past, which are very difficult. So we have a lot of irregular verbs, but in this case, it's regular. Welcome and welcomed. So people welcomed. The first day of spring is the object. So that's the typical sentence. Subject, verb, and the object. And that's no problem because spring is the season. We have winter, spring, summer, autumn. They're the seasons. And how, so the question is, how did they welcome the first day of spring? They welcomed the first day of spring by putting, so it's similar to above. They found a way to escape. They found a way to get round the curbs, but how? Because by holding, okay? And after by, it's typical ing. It's exactly the same here, by putting. So this really answers the question, how? So people welcome the first day, but how did they welcome it? By putting, so again, it's ing, by going, by eating, by drinking. And put on is important because it's very typical for electronics. The television, it's possible turn on, yes, but it is possible put on the channel, put on the television. My jacket, in the morning, I put on the jacket because on me, so put on is for clothes. And in relation to electronics, the washing machine, it's very common error because in Spanish it's poner la lavadora, but in English it's put on the washing machine, put on the television, put on the radio, or turn on the radio. So that's very important. But in this case, it's headphones. Okay, and the difference between headphones and earphones is very important though. So headphones and earphones. Earphones are these. So you can see here are the earphones. These are the little earphones, okay, for my ear. So they're the earphones, but the headphones are the bigger ones, like, you know, the company that have the big headphones. So there's headphones and there's earphones. So there's definitely a difference between the two, and you need to be clear. And it's significant and it's appropriate, the preposition on, because it's the head. And for the head, it's a surface, so you put on your head. So it's logical for the preposition, and again, prepositions are used in every moment. So remember here, we have, this is technically called a possessive adjective. So the possessive adjective in English is my pen, your pen, his pen, her pen, our pen. But in this case, it's their headphones because it's plural and the people. Okay, so it's extremely important. That's a possessive adjective. This is a fantastic expression. It's very, very informal. And to bust some moves, or to bust a move, basically means to dance. Okay, to dance very well, to dance really strong. It's very informal. But the verb to bust is like to burst. It's very, very similar to burst. And remember, to burst is like to explode. So typically burst is for the balloon. You can see the R, to burst the balloon or to burst the bubble. but to bust is typical in the context of business. So we say the company, the verb to go, and bust. So it's very typical. The company or the business went bust, and this is related to bancarrota in Espanol, bankrupt in English. So to go bust is to be bankrupt. Okay, and bankrupt is related to the money, and rupt is like ruptura, which is like romper. So bankrupt is when you have a big disaster with the company and it's necessary to close the company. So to go bust is to be bankrupt. Okay, a bust is also like a head. So I think in the president in the United States, in the office, they have a bust of Clinton, or so it's like a head. You know, the ceramic statue is possible a head. And you can say informal. I bust my neck to arrive on time. So this is probably very informal but extremely common in conversation. So to bust my neck, or to bust my whatever you want, to arrive on time means I did my best. I really pushed and pushed and pushed. I was stressed, but I did my best to arrive on time. But also it's typical in the context of the police. So it's very typical for the company when you lose money and you collapse, but it's very typical for the police. The police bust an illegal group. So you imagine a group of criminals and they are illegal, and the police bust the party, they bust the group, so it means they close. So again, it's probably very similar to the company. So the police busted the criminal group. Okay, also it's typical to bust my nose. Okay, and you can probably imagine in boxing, so if you have maybe a sport or an argument and you're boxing and somebody busts your nose, it's like to destroy or to damage or to break. So again, similar context with the company, with the criminals and your nose. So to bust your nose, so it is very typical. And to bust some moves is an expression to dance and to enjoy yourself. Very, very typical. And again, preposition is at, because it's a location, at the Marbella beach. It is possible in this case for the beach, it is possible at the beach, and of course because the beach is a surface, it's very, very typical on the beach. So or at the beach, and that is very, very important, because the typical error probably is in the beach. It's very strange to say in the beach, because in, it's necessary like a room or a contained space. So for the beach, it's normally on the beach or at the beach. And of course the pronunciation is very, very important for beach, because there's another word in English which is a little rude, and this pronunciation is very similar, and it's a classic confusion, but the pronunciation is beach. So you need to remember it like each. Okay, each each person, each day, each week, and the pronunciation is the same, just beach. Okay, because the other word is completely different. So basically you need to be clear with the pronunciation between each and itch. So it's extremely important, and there's definitely a difference. So each and itch. Okay, so that's very important for the confusion between the two words. But here it's the preposition for the location, at Marbella beach. Along is the preposition, and it's a little difficult, but it's like parallel. So if you walk along the road, you walk along the river, you walk along the street, it's like parallel. Okay, and here the beach is parallel to the seafront. Okay, and the seafront is flexible, and it basically means the area with the shops, with the restaurants, with the parties, with the discos. That's the seafront. Okay, so you have the seafront, which is maybe the road, the houses, the buildings, but the beach is obviously the sand, arena in Espanol. Very good. All, no problem. While in Espanol is mientras, and it has the significance of the same time. So I go to the cinema while you go to the shop. Okay, I go to Amsterdam while you go to London. Okay, so it's mientras in Espanol, and in other languages, just to get the translation for all the languages, you can see here while, and hopefully we can see in Arabic, Bulgarian, Chinese, Croatian, Dutch, French, German, Hebrew, Hindi, Hungarian, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Malay, Polish, Portuguese, Spanish, Thai and Vietnamese. We've no Filipino and no Indonesian on this application, but mientras you can see in Spanish. While is important, and respecting, no problem. So that paragraph is okay and it's understandable. And the last two, so the most important vocabulary from the last two, it has been, so this is a contraction, and when you have the contraction and the S, there's two possibilities. It is or it has. Okay, so there's two possibilities. When it's, you can have one possibility, it is, and the second possibility, it has. And we know this example is has because of the next word, and the next word is from the verb to be. Remember, the verb to be was is the past, to be, was, and been. Okay, so that's the column, the three columns, and the third column is been. And to create the present perfect, we need the extra verb have, which is has, because it's the third person, and we need the participle in the perfect. So because we have the extra and the participle, it's definitely the present perfect, because it started in the past and it continues to be incredible. So that's an example. It's difficult, but that is, it has been incredible. Really cool. I didn't expect. So this is very, very important, because in the past, in the negative, we say did not. Okay, so the verb in the present, I go, I eat, but in the past, negative, I did not eat, I did not go. Okay, so it's the past, but at the same time, we use the infinitive and the base of the verb. I'll write a few examples. Okay, I go in the present, and the negative, I do not go, in the negative present. Oh my god, look at my typing. That's not English, of course, so negative present. So I go is the present, I do not go is the present negative. The past, I went. Okay, so it changes, but the past negative, I did not go. So this is important because it's a very typical error. So when you create the negative in the past, the structure is did not or didn't for the contraction, plus the base or the infinitive base of the verb. So incluso aunque es en la pasado. So even though it's in the past, we use the base form of the verb in the negative. And that's the same. I look, I did not look. But so it's important, and that's just interesting and for sure very, very common. The next part is a contraction and a D. So when you have the contraction and the D, you can say the two options are there had and there would. Okay, so they're the two possibilities for the contraction when you have the D. There has or there would, and here we know it must be would because of the next verb is the infinitive, and it's necessary to have the infinitive after would. I would like, I would know, I would go. So there would be, and again, so many is for intensify. Okay, so you have people, a lot of people, many people, but so many people. So when you have so, it's to intensify. Okay, the adjective happy, so happy, tired, so tired. So the word so intensifies a lot. Okay, and said is the verb to say. It's irregular, say and said. And then therapist is the person. Okay, so therapy is the noun. The therapy is the noun. Therapeutical is the adjective. Therapeutical is the, oh well, that's the adverb. Well, we'll stay with the adverb, okay, but the person is the therapist. So this is the typical suffix to represent. This is very important. So the suffix ist is typically the person. For example, scientist, and that's the other, so it's the noun and it's the person, and the scientist is the typical area that's confusing. So you need to be very clear, because science is the noun and scientific is the adjective. So this family is very, very important, because scientist is the person who works in science. Science is the noun or the subject in school. So you study science, but you are a scientist. And the adjective is scientific. So the topic is very scientific. The book is very scientific. Adjective. Okay? So here it's the person. Therapist. And finally, seem is parecer in Espanol. It's like looks like. So it is the subject. So it's like the disco or the dancing. So that represents it, because every verb in English we need a subject. Okay? So it's possible here to say the disco seems a bit odd, but in general it. And this is very important. So it seems a bit is like a little, a bit of chocolate, a bit of milk, a bit of sugar, a bit of energy is a little. So a bit is a little. Do you want a bit of chocolate? It's the same as a little. Okay, and here it is very important vocabulary, very important adjective. Okay, odd is flexible. So first we normally say in relation to numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, they are odd numbers, and 2, 4, 6, 8 are even numbers. So we have odd numbers and even numbers. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, and odd numbers are 1, 3, 5, etc. Okay, so normally the perception with even numbers is good. Everything even is good, is correct, because if it's not even, it's maybe bad. And this is the perception. So for this reason, the word odd is usually associated with strange, with negative and maybe bad situations. So the movie is very odd, has the significance, it's very different, it's very strange. Okay, the cafe is very odd, it's very strange. Okay, so here it seems a bit odd has the significance, it seems a bit strange, or it seems a bit unusual, or a bit rare. In Espanol, raro. Okay, so it's very, very important. Odd is a little strange or unusual. Very, very common, very important vocabulary, and I definitely need some lessons with typing. So it seems a bit strange, it seems a bit odd, dancing in the middle of Barcelona. Okay, the final example with odd is the odds, and this is in relation to sport, in relation to gambling. Apostar. So to gamble or to bet, you have the odds. Okay, and the odds are like the probability. So if I have €1 and I want to gamble, I want to bet €1, the probability to win is maybe 20 to 1. Okay, so maybe you can say 20 to 1, they're the odds. It's like the probability. Okay, so here, and people is the subject, so this is a new sentence. And is the linker. People is the subject. Remember, one person, but 2 people, 3 people, 20 people, plural. War stopping. So this is the verb to stop. And remember, the verb to stop is regular in the past, stopped. Okay, but the future is will stop. So I'll write this here, the verb to stop. The future is I will stop. But the past is regular, I stopped. But a little irregular because you have 2 P's. Okay, so that's the past. But here it's with the verb to be. Future continuous or the past continuous. So the present continuous, I am stopping, I will be stopping, but I was stopping. And because it's people, it's plural, so people were stopping. And this is important because in Spanish you say people is, but in English it's more typical, in my opinion, people are. Okay, and for this reason it's people were stopping. So that's the past continuous. It happened continuously in the past. To look, but it's beautiful. It's a great thing to do. On is for the day, and a Sunday morning is just in general because it's any Sunday morning. Come here and connect a bit to the music. Okay, So that's very good. That's 3 or 4 paragraphs, an analysis of grammar and a lot of vocabulary, and a really good activity. I think it's excellent. I think it's a very good method, a very good way to learn English and to study English and to teach English. So I'm very happy because 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, we have seen a lot of lessons, a lot of topics in relation to grammar, and also we have seen specific vocabulary. So that's really good practice and really good exercise. Okay, so I will put this document on the Facebook page. So below the video for the class, I will put the link for the document if you want to finish the article and if you want to continue reading the article. But it's very, very good, and that's good and a good exercise. So you can see here, this is a list of phrasal verbs. So this is a specific list of phrasal verbs, and remember, the concept of the phrasal verb is the verb plus the preposition, and it's possible literal. For example, look up, that's literal, I look up, but it is possible a second completely different significance that changes the significance of the sentence completely. So we have maybe 20 pages in this document, but in reality there are thousands of phrasal verbs. In reality, in conversation, there are thousands and thousands of phrasal verbs. This is just a typical document in relation to material, and you can find a lot of documents on the internet in relation to phrasal verbs, but this is just one. Okay, and we are page 12. So every day we continue a little, and today we continue with the verb to look. So we have a lot of combinations possible with the verb to look. Look up, look down, look after, look under, look over, look back. We have a lot of combinations with prepositions and look, which have literal significance, but also have a completely different significance. Okay, so here you can see a lot of examples with look, and we're going to begin with the first one, to look after. This is very, very typical and very, very common. Okay, so to look after is, in my opinion, logical, because you look and after is this movement. So here and after. So imagine the child, and the child is here, and you are responsible to take care of the child. So it's necessary for you to look at the child, look at the area, because you are responsible and you are managing, you are minding the child. So to look after basically means that you look around the child, you look in every position. So for me, that's the way I remember the expression to look after. So the significance is to take care. Okay, so I look after the dog, I look after the baby, I look after my friend. It's to take care of. So it's extremely typical and very, very important. So here we say a child, take care of a child, a house or a pet. And you can see the example here. It is when my sister, okay, so when is the time, cuando in Espanol, my sister goes. So the verb is to go, but the third person in the present is usually with the S. So I go, you go, he goes, and she goes. So it's a little irregular in the third person in the present. For vacation and holiday, we normally say on. I am on vacation, I am on holiday. So typically for vacation and holiday, you are on holiday or on vacation. And I will put the vocabulary here. On vacation, on holiday. Also for a trip, you are on a trip. So that's the typical preposition that's necessary for this vocabulary. So when my sister goes on vacation, I look after her dog. And remember, this is the possessive adjective. My dog, your dog, his dog for masculine person, possession, her dog for the sister, for the feminine. Okay, and that's the phrasal verb, to look after. The significance is to take care of the person. Okay, so that's very, very important. And the next example with look is back on. So this is a very good example. Back is this movement, and remember, on is for the preposition. So if you look back, it's literal. So now I look back, that's literal. But look back on is also possible literal, but the second significance is like to remember. Okay, so I'm in the present, but now I look back on my early years, I look back on my childhood, so I metaphorically look back on, so it's like to remember, and here's exactly the translation, to remember nostalgically. Okay, and here's the example. When I look, exactly the same, when I look back on my childhood, I often feel angry. Okay, so this is the adjective when you're very mad, you're very upset. So the vocabulary is mad, upset, and angry. But also, you need to be clear the difference between angry and hungry. Okay, angry and hungry. Hungry is related to food. So when you have no food, you are very hungry. In Espanol, tengo fam. But angry is very, very crazy, very mad, very upset. So you're not happy, you're very angry. So the pronunciation is a little bit different. And also, the pronunciation here is irregular in English. So it's not phonetic. Some people say often, and that's okay, it's understandable. Everybody says this a lot. But the correct phonetics is the T is silent. So the correct pronunciation is often. Okay, technically that's the correct pronunciation, often, often, often. But of course, a lot of people say often, often. But just be aware, especially if you're preparing for an exam, this little detail is important, and the significance is frequently. So I often go to the cinema, I frequently go to the cinema. And in this case, I often feel angry, I frequently feel angry. Okay, so look back on. Good example, and I think understandable. The next one is very, very good. Okay, so literal, look down. So it's literal, I look down at the floor, literal. But the second significance is metaphorical in relation to a relationship or two people. So this person is the manager. This person thinks he or she is fantastic, very powerful. So he or she possibly looks down on the worker. So it's not related to the height. It's more metaphorical in relation to power and in relation to opinion. Okay, so if the manager looks down on the worker, it's maybe very rude, very bad, very negative. The person thinks they are superior. They think they are better. It's maybe arrogant. So to look down on somebody is very rude. And rude in Espanol is maleducado. Very rude, very impolite is to look down on somebody. Okay, very bad expression. So here's the example. She's so conceited, which is like proud and arrogant maybe, and then this is intensify as well. So this also is possible, remember, has or is, but because it's the adjective, it's necessary is. So with the adjective we have the verb to be, and with the noun we have the verb to have normally. Okay, so this is definitely the verb to be. She is, because it's an adjective, and remember, so is to intensify. So arrogant is the adjective, so arrogant. Happy, adjective, so happy. So she is so happy, and the consequence, she looks down on everybody else. And else is like all the other people. Okay? And very important, so the person looks down on the other person, but the opposite, to look up to, is very positive. And if you are the child and you look up to the parent, you look up to your teacher because you respect and you admire. So to look up to somebody is to respect and to admire, and to look down on somebody is to think you are better, superior, and maybe more arrogant. So it's negative. So very good examples, very common, extremely frequent and extremely common, to look up to somebody and to look down on somebody. Okay? And the difference with the preposition look up to, because it's direction, and look down on. So there's just a little difference with the preposition. Look for, no problem. It's como buscar in Espanol. I look for my pen. I look for my bag. So look for is typical for a job. You look for a house. You look for a job. You look for an apartment. And the verb here is very advanced, to seek. Okay, so this is very important, verb to seek. And the significance is to look for. But the past, so I seek a job, I seek an apartment, I look for a job, I look for an apartment, but the past is I sought. Okay, so I sought a job has the significance I looked for in the past. very good English, very advanced, very, very frequent and very common to seek a job, to seek help, to look for help. Okay, so here I am looking for my keys. So remember the possessive adjective, my keys, your keys, his keys, masculine, her keys, feminine. Have you seen them? So this is the question. Okay, to create the question is a little tricky in English, and that's just the example. The next two are very, very common, and the next two are a big part of English. The first one is look forward to. Okay, so everybody understands the verb to look, and you need to be clear the difference between look, see, and watch. So I will write here the difference between to look, to see, and to watch. So watch is maybe related to movement. When something is movement, you watch the child, you watch the television, you watch the ship, you watch the car, because it's movement. But the see is just general. At the moment I see the television, I see the light, I see the fridge. And then look is more specific focus. I look at the television, I look at the computer. So there is a difference between look, see, and watch something movement. Okay, so the next point is forward is related to movement and direction. So the suffix ward is typical for direction. You can say forward, backward, sideward, and it's typical for movement and direction. Okay, so forward is movement, backward is obviously this direction, and sideward is this direction. So the expression to look forward is literal, so I look forward, but it's very frequently a metaphor that you are optimistic. Okay, you're optimistic, you're continuing. So the past is maybe negative, the past is bad, and you look forward, you advance, you progress. So it's very metaphorical, and it's typical for the week. You are looking forward to the weekend, but you're optimistic, you're excited, and you're motivated for the weekend. You're looking forward to your holiday, you're motivated for your holiday, you're motivated for your trip. And here is to anticipate with pleasure. Okay, so the example, I am looking forward to traveling. So this is the ing. In my opinion, you can say I'm looking forward to travel to New York, but probably it's more typical in the ing. And the ing is the gerundio in Espanol, in English the gerund. Okay, I am looking forward to, I am excited, traveling to New York next year. Okay, good. So very extremely common to look forward to. And the second one is very, very frequent as well. So look again, in, preposition to. So look into, again, is for movement, it's literal. I look into the room, I look into the bottle. It's literal, but the second significance is completely different. It's like to investigate. So if you have a problem and you need help with the problem, maybe the accountant, financial problem, you need the accountant to help you with the problem. So you tell the information to the accountant, and the accountant will look into the problem. Look into. So it's significance to investigate. So the accountant will look into the problem. Typical for the maybe police. So there is a crime, and you give the details for the crime, and the police will look into the crime. They will investigate. Extremely typical, extremely common, and a perfect example of a modal verb. And here's the example for the police, the context. The police are looking, so this is the present continuous, because I look, I looked, I am looking, I was looking. So this is the present continuous. The police are looking into the murder, so they're investigating, they're trying. And I think they are the most common for today, and continue in the next day. So that document is very important, and also the article was very important for today. Similarly, we have a list with idioms, but little by little, because we have a class every day, we will do little by little, and we will try to learn some important points every day. I hope you really enjoy the class. Thank you so much for attending. If you have a question, Zoom. It's possible if you have a question. Also, remember, everything is free. It's a good opportunity for me to help at the moment. That was the original idea, to help you because people have restrictions, and also for me it's a very good opportunity to know new people and to promote my teaching, and it's really a good opportunity for me. At the same time, it's my job, it's my work, and I have support at the moment, yes, but if you want to contribute, if you want to help me, if you want to give a little tip of maybe €1 or €2, it's possible with a few applications. You have the application Bizum, which is popular in Spain, and you just need the telephone number with Bizum. In Ireland, donate and support me, you can do this by Revolut with maybe for the bank at the bottom left. So if you prefer to transfer, there's a website, paypal.me/support. My name is Brian, and this code will give you a link also if you want. So again, it's a great initiative, it's a great project, and it's my work, and I have support at the moment, yes, but hopefully I can continue working in this way. So if you want to help, if you want to tip, that's possible with the details. I know we have some people watching live, of course, but we also have some people watching recorded on YouTube and later on the Facebook page. So thank you everybody for watching and for your comment. I also have Instagram, Twitter and YouTube. So if you want to connect on Instagram, that's the page @miglioreinglés, and that's a possibility. And finally, today at 4 o'clock we have a specific webinar. So there's a webinar today at 4 o'clock on Zoom. I am hosting the webinar. You are welcome to join. The idea is to focus on specific grammar topics every week, and this is the 4th week of the grammar webinar, and you are welcome to join when you want. It's no problem to join this week and next week, whenever you want, no problem. It's open. There's a small fee of €2.90, and we will focus specifically on grammar lessons and grammar information from the British Council grammar website and from the Cambridge grammar website, and we have some exercises and also an opportunity to practice discussion and debate. Okay, so that's the possibility today at 4 o'clock. We have webinars every day at 4 o'clock, and it would be fantastic if you want to join. So to connect, you need the details for the link on the majority of the class today. I will put all the information and the notes on